My friends, to another edition of the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. This is probably the most important topic I'll ever talk about, actually, right here today. So if this is the only video you watch, you're done. If you don't have to watch anymore, don't do that. Please continue to watch. But this is the most important topic. And the reason is because we have got studies from Bureau of Labor Statistics, a group called Towers and Watson, that show you what is the number one reason for people to be happy in retirement. The number one reason for people to be happy in retirement. And you might be surprised, actually. So let's just jump right into the detail. I post this on my blog at heritagewealthplanning.com, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But just watch this. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger to kind of show you these charts. Housing expense is the greatest expense for households for people over 55 by far. In fact, if you look at the studies, you'll see that housing expense accounts for 1/3 of all expenditures for people who are over 55 years old. And I say in my blog here that people always say healthcare is the biggest expense. Not even close. It's housing by far. Healthcare expenses do increase, almost doubling in expenditures from people from the age of 55 on up to above 75. But even after those increases, those over 75 still only spend about 15.5% of their total income on health expenditures, whereas over a third, 36.5%, is spent on housing. It's crazy. So housing by far is the biggest expense in retirement for people over 55. Now, the interesting thing is, Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, points out the proportion of families with heads of households age 55 and older with housing debt increased steadily from 1992 to 2010. So it increased from 24% to 42%. That is over a 50% increase. The proportion of families with heads of households over 55 years old with housing debt. So basically, almost half the people over 55 years old as of 2010 had mortgages, which is a 50% increase in people over 55 who had mortgages from 1992. Now, ironically, watch this. I'm going to dive into these charts here a little bit more. This is Towers Watson. They did an analysis on retirement happiness among retirees. Look at this. In 1998, you had basically 2/3 of the population was happy in retirement. Now, they were doing it based on annuitization of your income. So basically, if you had annuities, you're happier than you didn't. I'm not even talking about that. I'm just saying, watch the level of satisfaction in retirement. It drops from 67 to 55, from 63 to 53, from 58 to 50. So the happiness that people have in retirement has been dropping significantly. And lo and behold, the amount of debt that people carry in retirement right here has been going up at the same time. So logically, you'll say, if you want to be happier, what do? You pay down your debt. That's just logical. The interesting thing is that a lot of people don't do that. And they don't do it because they think, oh, I get 3.5% money on my mortgage and I can deduct it. And I should be able to get 6 or 7% on my returns on my investments. Thus, it doesn't make any sense to pay off my mortgage when I can get a better rate of return on my money. The two problems, huge problems with that. First and foremost, are you actually able to deduct the mortgage interest? I mean, if you're married filing jointly and you have standard deduction of $24,000, that means the first $24,000 you have free and clear of any taxation whatsoever. The only way you can deduct the mortgage interest is if you have itemizations above $24,000. So real estate taxes, mortgage interest, charitable giving, all that, it has to be above $24,000 before you can even take the mortgage deduction. In fact, I just know factually, you can look at the, again, BLS, they'll show you how many people actually take deductions relative to the standard, itemized deductions relative to standard. It's not even close. The vast majority of people, retirees in particularly, do not itemize. They take standard deductions. So if I hear that mortgage interest is deductible, which is true, but only for those taking itemizations. If you're under standard deduction, you don't get a deduction on your mortgage interest. So if it's costing you 3.5% in your interest, it's cost you a true 3.5% because you do not get to deduct that. Even if you did have a little bit more deductions, you only get able to deduct above and beyond the 24,000 threshold. So let's say you gave 12,000 bucks to charity, that's $1,000 a month, and you have $1,000 a month in mortgage interest. Well, that's $24,000. Even that right there, you're not able to deduct anything. Now, say you have another $4,000 you're able to deduct in medical cost. All right, so you have $28,000 of itemized deductions relative to $24,000 of standard deductions. You're still not able to deduct the entirety of your mortgage interest. It's just not happening. You're only able to deduct a third in that regard. So again, does it make sense to take the deduction route when you're probably not going to deduct it, and you're certainly not going to deduct the entirety of your mortgage interest? It's just not likely to happen. Secondly, the mortgage interest debt doesn't go down when the markets do. So let me give you an example. In year 2000, the markets went down 9. Year 2011, 11. Year 2000, 2002. So I said year 2000, 2001, 2002, 9, 11, and 22%. What did your mortgage interest do? Because remember, it's just cheap money. 3.5% is your interest. So that's cheap. Well, your mortgage interest stayed flat, did not go down at all, and yet your portfolio was down, let's just say 25%. How many people actually stood there while the portfolio was dropping like a brick in water, knowing full well they had debt that had to be paid? Not that many. Not that many. People got nervous, and rightly so. Lastly, if I said, here's a check, I'm going to give you, or let's just say you had your house paid off. I say, let's just borrow the whole thing, invest in the market. You never do that. No one does that. But that's exactly what borrowing and not paying off your debt and instead leaving an investment is doing. It's saying, I'm just going to take a loan from my bank in order to put it in the market, and I'm going to leverage it with collateral being my home. No one does that. And you shouldn't do that either, because you have to have a place to live. It doesn't make any sense. So don't do that. So anyway, as we go back, and that's one of the reasons why happiness is dropping like a brick in water themselves, because they're having all this debt and they're worried about it at night. How am I going to pay the debt? What if the markets tank? In fact, look at this. From 2008 to 2010, not a dramatic drop, but we did see a drop in happiness. I don't know if you can see that. And I imagine that's a little bit attributed to the stock market crash. Here's 2000. Oh, yeah, look at that. From 2000 to about 2003, pretty significant drop off, over 10%, probably about 15% in retirement happiness. Again, that coincides with the market decline from 2000, 2001, and 2002. Actually, a lot less than I would have thought here in 2008, because the market really got hammered. I don't know why that is, but not that much fell off in 2008. But that's certainly attributed to the market sell-off in 2000, 2001, and 2002. And so at the end of the day, we have factual evidence that the happiness, you'll be happier if you don't have debt. So let me just maximize this a little bit here. I want to see if I can't show you this chart. And let me stop that. Let's get this guy over there. And it's going to be hard to see. Okay, yes, right here. Let's see if I can't maximize this a little bit more. It's probably going to put my big face out of the way here. All right, and it's going to be yeah, there we go. All right, sweet. So what you'll see here, if I can get that down. There we go. Yeah. All right, so here's total annual expenditure. And this is what I just talked about. Oh, Jesus, give me a hard time. This is what I just talked about in a video I just did, and here I'll link to it right here in the show notes. Here's total annual expenditures, and this is from the BLS study that we're talking about that Ty Bernicki did back in 2005. Now, this is just recent study, but right here is the evidence right in front of your very, very eyes. And again, it's not the best chart because my big face is in there, and I don't know how to get it out of the way. But total annual expenditures, $53,495. As you get 55 and older, your total annual expenditures is 49. We'll just say 49,000. 55 to 64 is 55,000. 65 to 74 goes to 49,000. And then 75 and older is 36,000. That is absolutely the proof that Ty Bernicki and other financial researchers have identified. The amount of your expenditures, your consumption drops significantly as you age. I mean, here's the BLS just telling us right there exactly. You start off 49,000, goes down to 56, goes down to 48, goes down to 36. Watch this. So what is the proportion of the spending. Housing for all people is 33%. For people aged 55 and older, it's 33%. For people aged 55 to 64, it's 32%, 32.4, and then 36.5. So as their spending goes down, their housing cost relative to the spending increases. And what does that lead to? It leads to a decline in happiness and retirement. The number one thing you can do is pay off your debt. That's all there is to it. Now, let me just be very, very clear here. I'm not one of those guys who say you should be house poor, or is it house rich and cash poor? I think that's what it is. You got nothing but equity in your home, but you got no cash. That's not what I'm talking about. Only cash puts food on the table. Nothing else puts food on the table. Equity in the home does not put food on the table. And if you say you can go borrow against your house, not if you don't have a job, folks. A bank will only give you a loan against your house if you have collateral and cash flow and good credit. Cash flow. Yeah, you have collateral, your house is paid for. You may or may not have good credit, but you have the cash flow to support that debt. And if all your income is Social Security, you're not going to have the cash flow to support the debt. Because a bank doesn't want to be in the business of repoing your house. They don't want to get out there and put you out so they can sell it, on the market for 20% less than what they owe on it. That's not what the bank is there for. They want to make sure they get their money back from you. And that's why they loan to people with good credit history who have good collateral and they have cash flow. The 3 C's: collateral, cash flow, credit. They used to say character. That's probably discriminatory anymore because who knows what's a good character. But the 3 C's of the lending right there. And so we're seeing proof positive. Retirees' consumption goes down, but we're seeing a larger and larger percentage of their income is going to debt on average. And that is meaning simply that they're less happy. Now, everyone gets caught up in this right here, healthcare. And I'm going to show you. Here is healthcare. And again, sorry about this being such a poor graph. Go to the blog and see. I'll link to it. Just make sure you go to the blog. It's critically important. So healthcare for 55 and older, the cost of healthcare for everybody is 8%. 8% of your consumption goes to healthcare. If you're over 55, 11% goes to healthcare. If you're over 55 to 64, 8, basically 9, 65 to 74, 12%, and then 75 and above, 15.6% goes to healthcare. So we see basically a tripling of your healthcare consumption as you go from basically the average population to over 75 years old. But that doesn't come close to your home. I mean, it doesn't. So even at 75 years old, you have, maybe, what if I can make him smaller? There we go. Perfect. Let me try that some more to get this. Let me see if that works. So I just put up to 200% on this chart here. Hey, look at that. Hey, should have done that to begin with. So annual expenditures, 75 years and older. And here's healthcare right here. $5,700 a year is going to your healthcare out of $36,000 that you have coming in, that you spend every year, I should say, that you spend, not have coming in, that you spend. So 15% of your income is going to healthcare. Of your expenditures, not necessarily income. This is just what you spend on. Your expenditures is going to healthcare, which is a dramatic increase from when you're from the society at large, which is 8%. So we have a big increase in expenditures going to healthcare, but it's still dwarfed. Look at that. By the amount of money you've got going to your housing expense. So housing is your number one thing to get in front of, to be in front of as you go to retirement. I'm just telling you. And then look at this. That is the happiness that people have as they get, as we go, as from 2010, it's just a huge decline from 1998 to 2010. Happiness levels have shrunk. The amount of debt has gone up. Correlation? Is causation? Coincidence? I don't think so. Debt is your enemy. As I say in my book, Strategic Money Planning, pay it off, pay it off, pay it off. And if you do, you're going to be happier. Just no two other ways around it. All right. Comments down below. Tell me, what does it feel? I'll use a Dave Ramsey screen thing. What have you felt when you paid off your debt? I don't know what it's like to not have a mortgage. I mean, other than renting it for a couple months, but I've had a mortgage for going on 20 years now. And man, I can't wait not to have it, but I'm still knee deep in it. So if you don't have that issue, tell us about it. Give us a feedback so we can strive to something, because not having a mortgage is just got to feel good. And I'd love to hear your story on that. So thumbs up are always welcome. Comments, don't forget to subscribe. And of course, hit the notification bell down there, right down, I think it's down here. Yeah, right down there to be notified of future content of the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. Thanks, guys.